Hey there. Thanks for being here. Before we begin, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit subscribe, tap that like button, and drop a comment. Who's watching? Just to mark this moment. Because what we're about to talk about, it might turn how you see yourself inside out, and in a good way, I promise. So, take a breath. Maybe close your eyes for a second, only if you're safe to do so. Just ask yourself quietly, who's here? And if you try to catch that observer, that sense of you watching the watcher, maybe you notice something odd. You only found another thought about looking. Then something seemed to be watching that thought. It's like being between two mirrors, seeing endless reflections, but you never quite touch the real you. Strange, right? Yet, this isn't just a mind trick. For thousands of years, people have asked this very question. Who's aware of awareness? And every time you think you found the answer, there's someone watching that answer. That sense of you slips away again. Here's the thing. The teaching from Buddhist wisdom isn't about solving the puzzle like an academic. It's more like stepping into the mystery and letting it soften you, change you. Because what you might find isn't another label or identity, but freedom from the suffering that comes when you think you're fixed, permanent, unchanging. So let's begin together, gently. First stop, the most obvious me most of us live with. When you woke up this morning, there was probably that immediate feeling, I woke up, I felt this. I thought that. That sense of I is so natural, so embedded, we rarely question it. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. We kind of go along with that without a second thought. In the Buddhist map, this is called bewilderment. Not because we're stupid, but because we're deeply misunderstanding who we are. You and I get told, the body is me, the feelings are me, the thoughts are me. Everything folds into I and mine. The identification is complete. When the body hurts, I hurt. When emotions surge, I am those emotions. And yeah, that seems reasonable. But hang on, this very sense of I am this is the root of so much of our suffering. Think about it. Why does criticism cut so deep? Because I felt attacked. Why fear getting older? Because you might diminish, fade away. When life turns rough, a job ends, a relationship falls apart. The suffering isn't just the event. It's the story. This happened to me. I failed. The core teaching is, clinging to the idea of self causes suffering. It's a lot to take in. But let's pause here and maybe ask, what would it mean for you if I am the body started feeling less like a fact and more like a story you're telling? If the me, that hurts, could be seen differently? Stay with that thought, and when you're ready, we'll keep going together. Take another breath with me. It's okay if your mind's still spinning from that first question. Most people feel that way when they start looking inside. We've been told our whole lives that this voice inside is us, that the thoughts are me, the feelings are mine. So, when I say maybe that me isn't as solid as we think, it can sound strange, even scary. But stay here with me a bit longer. Let's go a little deeper. Imagine your thoughts are like clouds moving across the sky. You can watch them appear, drift, and fade. You're not those clouds. You're the sky itself. It's a simple image, but it says something huge. When we stop grabbing every passing cloud and calling it me, life gets a little lighter. You might have noticed this in daily life. Maybe someone criticized you and it stung like a bee, but later you realize their words didn't actually define you. Or maybe you were worried about something that never happened. And the moment you saw it as just a thought, your shoulders relaxed. That tiny space between I am sad and sadness is here. That's freedom opening its first door. Buddhist wisdom calls this kind of seeing mindfulness, but I like to think of it as simply coming home. You don't have to rename it or sit on a mountain. You just start to notice. Maybe when you wash dishes. Maybe when you sit in traffic. Maybe while you listen right now. The noticing itself is what matters. When you see a thought rise, when you feel an emotion move through you, you start realizing something gentle but powerful. These things come and go. They visit, they leave. You, whatever that word points to, are the space they pass through. That's all. And here's something I've learned the hard way. We often build a new self out of that realization. The calm observer, the peaceful meditator, the one who gets it. But guess what? That's just another mask. A spiritual me. It's sneaky because it feels wiser than before, but it's still holding on. I've done it too. We all have. So, what if we didn't need a new identity? What if we could simply see, without naming, without grabbing? Like the Buddha told a man long ago, in the seen, only the seen. In the heard, only the heard. That line always moves me, because it's saying, let life happen as it is. Seeing happens, hearing happens, feeling happens. No one needs to own it. Modern science actually agrees. When people meditate deeply, brain scans show that the part linked to me thinking goes quiet. Awareness stays. But there's no one sitting in the control room. No tiny pilot inside your head. Just life flowing on its own. Now, this doesn't mean you disappear or become empty. It means the walls between you and everything else soften. The world feels less like out there and more like right here. There's no observer watching a movie anymore, because the watching is a movie. So, before we go to the next part, take a slow breath. Feel your body sitting, breathing, alive. Thoughts may come. Let them. Sounds, sensations, all of it, let it be what it is. You don't need to push them away or hold them tight. Just for a moment, see what happens when they're simply seeing. And if this kind of quiet exploration speaks to you, subscribe to the channel. Not because you should, but because maybe, just maybe, this space can remind you to pause again, to breathe again, to remember that it's okay not to have all the answers. Sometimes just being here, watching gently, is enough. Hey, still here? That's good. You're doing something that sounds simple but is actually rare, just sitting and listening. Most people spend their whole lives running from silence. So take a breath with me. Maybe let your shoulders drop a little. You don't need to get anything right now. Just be here. You see, once we start noticing thoughts and emotions come and go, something amazing and a little confusing happens. We begin to feel that there's no real border between me and everything else. You're watching, you're feeling, but where exactly are you in all that? It's like looking for the ocean in a wave. You can't pull it apart. At first, that realization feels freeing. Then the mind sneaks back in and says, all right, now I need to stay enlightened. I need to keep this no-self thing going. But that's the last little trick of the ego. It wants to own even the freedom. The truth is, the moment you try to hold no self, you've built another self. So don't hold. Just notice. I remember a story an old monk told me years ago. He said, imagine holding a hot coal because you think it's a jewel. You clutch it tight, even though it burns. But when you finally see it's just fire, your hand opens by itself. That's what awakening feels like. You don't decide to let go. You just see clearly and the grip releases. Maybe you've had moments like that. A time when you're fighting something, grief, anger, regret, and then suddenly something softened. You saw it for what it was, and it stopped owning you. That's not magic. That's awareness doing its quiet work. In Buddhist teaching, they say liberation isn't something you achieve. It's something that happens when the craving to fix, to cling, simply runs out of fuel. Like a flame going out when there's nothing left to burn. No one turns it off. It just stops. And here's what's beautiful. When you stop trying so hard to be spiritual or awake, life doesn't vanish. It actually becomes more vivid, colors brighter, sounds clearer. Ordinary moments start to feel sacred, not because they're special, but because they're finally seen. You still laugh, you still cry, you still spill your coffee, but it's lighter now. You don't carry the stories so tightly. The I that used to say, this shouldn't happen, fades into the background. There's only this moment doing what it does, and in that space, something soft blooms, compassion. Not because a rule book says be kind, but because when the walls fall down, there's no me and you anymore. Just one big field of life, breathing itself. When someone hurts, it's simply pain moving through the world. Naturally, you reach out, not out of duty, but out of love. Maybe that's what the Buddha meant when he said, just as a mother protects her only child, let your heart be boundless. It's not poetry. It's what happens when separateness drops away. Love becomes the most natural thing there is. So maybe don't try to get rid of your ego today. Don't chase enlightenment. Just notice. When you feel anxious, say to yourself softly, this is anxiety visiting. When you feel joy, smile and let it pass. 2. Nothing to fix, nothing to hold. If this talk touches something inside you, I'd love for you to share it. Someone out there might need a reminder that peace isn't a reward. It's a home we forgot we already had. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Let's keep walking this path together, quietly, gently, one breath at a time. Because maybe the truest freedom isn't found in seeking. Maybe it's in finally realizing there's no one left who needs to. Take a deep inhale. Let the air fill you slowly. Exhale. You're here. You wanted the questions. Who am I? Who's behind the thoughts? What's watching? Now we come to something quieter, something maybe softer than answers, the gentle return. So you found that the me you believed in, the solid self, was more like a story you were telling. You glimpsed at your body, your feelings, your thoughts. None of them really stood up as you in a permanent way. And you asked, okay, if none of that is me, who's trying to be free? That question itself started to fall away. Because when there is no I as a separate entity doing the work, freedom isn't an achievement. It's a natural unfolding. The ancient teaching said, in the scene, just the scene. In the herd, just the herd. Lions roar plus when there's no little person seeing no you who's apart from what happens. It's experience meeting experience. Now imagine your life as a river. You're the river. You're not on the river, and you're not watching the river from the dry bank. You're the water flowing. The waves don't need to ask permission to rise or fall. Your thoughts, feelings, they are that movement. When you finally let go of the idea, I must control this, a weird thing happens. You become more alive, not less. Let me tell you a story that hit me. A friend of mine, call her Sarah, was always trying to fix her life. She thought, once I find inner peace, I'll be different. Then once I become different, I'll help others. She meditated, she read, she tried, and every year felt like climbing uphill. Until one morning she sat quietly and said, I'll just watch what's here. She opened her eyes and noticed her cat stretching, raindrops on the window, a phone pinging in the background. She wasn't chasing stillness. she noticed motion. And in that noticing, something shifted. Sadness still came, joy still came, but she wasn't the one being buffeted. She was the watchtower in the storm, sort of one and the same. From that day, Sarah didn't stop feeling. She still felt fear of aging, still felt loss. But one evening when she lost someone she loved, she noticed the loss without clinging to "this is mine." The wave came, hit the shore, and withdrew. She didn't rescue her sadness. She saw it, and in that very seeing, the tightness in her chest loosened. That's not me saying she's perfect now. No. But her life changed because her relationship with self changed. Here's what I'm writing to you now, not to churn your mind further, but to invite something. You don't need to go somewhere else to find freedom. It's here, right now. And when the little I, who thinks it's doing work, finally rests, you discover that everything you ever needed was already under your nose. The I that compared, that judged, that clung, its work finishes. And what remains is compassion. Because when separation falls away, your suffering and someone else's suffering aren't two different things. Secular Buddhist Network.org+1. So here's the invitation. Begin from your seat. Watch your breath. Notice a thought. That's a thought. A feeling. That's a feeling. No rush. No judgment. Just noticing. And when you catch yourself telling the story of, I am this, maybe say softly, maybe I'm just this moment. If you felt any echo of truth in this, hit the like button. Share this with someone who might need to hear. You're not alone in asking these questions. And if you aren't subscribed yet, come join this quiet space where we don't chase answers. We lean into curiosity. Because the lesson is this: you don't have to arrive. You don't have to become a better you. You already are what the path points to. Real freedom isn't a finish line. It's the simple unfolding of seeing clearly. And maybe, just maybe, that seeing opens your life in a way you never expected. Hey, before we dive in, take a second to check in with yourself. How's your breath right now? Maybe slow, maybe uneven. It's okay. Let it settle. This isn't a lecture. It's just us talking quietly about something we all feel but rarely name. You see, after all the looking, all the trying to find yourself, something unexpected happens. The search begins to feel heavy. You start to notice that even the desire to wake up comes from the same restless place that caused the suffering in the first place. It's the self wearing a new robe, now calling itself the seeker. But here's the secret that few people tell you. When the seeker stops chasing, the thing you were seeking starts to reveal itself. There's a story that stays with me. An old fisherman once spent years looking for the perfect wave. He'd sail out every morning, eyes scanning the horizon, thinking, maybe today I'll find it. One day, tired and older, he stopped in the middle of the ocean and finally noticed the waves around him were already perfect, not because they were big or small, but because they were real. They were here. That's how awakening works. You stop sailing away and you start seeing. The Buddha never said, you must get rid of yourself. He said, see clearly. And seeing clearly doesn't mean rejecting your personality or pretending not to care. It means realizing that what you call me is more like a dance than a dancer, always moving, never a thing you can hold. The problem was never the dance itself. It was believing you were a separate performer. When you truly see that, life doesn't become dull. It becomes softer. You still laugh. You still cry. But something underneath has changed. A quiet trust that you can let the world flow without gripping so hard. The fear of losing control fades because you see you never really had control to begin with. Sometimes when I sit in silence, I picture my worries like children tugging at my sleeve, each one saying, "Look at me, fix me." And for a while, I try, I reason, I pray, I plan. But then I notice, the moment I stop reacting, they calm down. They're not gone. They just don't run the house anymore. That's the peace that grows when you stop fighting every moment to make it yours. And here's the beautiful paradox. The less you chase peace, the more it finds you. The less you try to let go, the more naturally things fall away. It's like unclenching your hand. You don't need to force it open. You just realize what's inside was never meant to be held forever. Now, some people ask, but if there's no self, who loves? Who helps? Who cares? And the answer is simple: love itself does. When the walls of me and you thin out, kindness flows without effort. You don't have to decide to be compassionate. You just are, because there's no line left to protect. So maybe tonight, when things get quiet and that old voice in your head starts whispering, "What am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be?" you can smile and whisper back, "Maybe nothing, maybe just this." And maybe that's enough. If this message lands somewhere in your heart, take a second to like the video or share it with someone who's been searching a long time. And if you haven't yet hit subscribe, not as a promise to find yourself, but as a reminder that sometimes the most powerful journey begins when the searching slows down. Because maybe what you've been running after all along was the stillness that's been sitting patiently inside you the whole time. Hey, welcome back. You've made it this far, and that already says something about you. Most people turn away when things get quiet, but you're still here, listening, breathing, maybe even feeling a little softer than before. So let's sit here together. No rush, no goal, just you, me, and the sound of your own breathing. You know, life has this way of keeping us spinning. Thoughts, worries, memories, plans. It's like standing in the middle of a busy train station while every train rushes by. You think, "I need to catch one of them or I'll be left behind." But what if you didn't have to run? What if peace wasn't on one of those trains at all, but in the space between the sound of them passing? When you finally stop chasing, even for a breath, something gentle begins to appear. Stillness. Not the kind of stillness that's empty or boring, the kind that feels alive. Like sitting by a quiet lake and realizing the water was never really still. It was just too calm for your eyes to notice the movement. That stillness lives in you, under all the noise. I remember once talking to an older friend. She'd been through everything: heartbreak, loss, fear, healing. I asked her, "How did you finally find peace?" She smiled and said, "I didn't find it. I stopped making noise long enough for it to find me." That line never left me. Because peace isn't something we earn. It's what's left when we stop holding on so tight. Maybe you've noticed, the moments that truly stay with you aren't the loud ones. They're the quiet pauses. Sitting on your porch in the morning light, watching rain slide down the window, hearing your grandchild laugh. None of those need a story. They don't need "I" to be beautiful. They just are. And maybe that's a lesson hiding in all of this. You were never broken, never incomplete. You were just distracted. The observer you've been trying to find, that awareness behind it all, isn't hiding somewhere deep inside. It is the looking. It's every breath you take, every thought you watch rise and fall. The Buddha once said, "When the mind is still, the world also stills." That doesn't mean everything stops moving. It means your fight with it does. You stop arguing with what is. You let life breathe the way it wants to breathe. And suddenly, things start feeling lighter, simpler, even sacred. Maybe right now as you listen, you can test it. Feel your breath again. Notice the sounds around you, the hum of your room, the heartbeat in your chest. Try not to label them. Don't call them mine. Just hear them. Just feel them. In this simple act, there's a tiny taste of what the Buddha meant by freedom. And listen, it's okay if your mind still wanders. Everyone's does. Awakening isn't about becoming some perfect person who never thinks too much or never feels pain. It's about remembering again and again that you can come back. You can breathe. You can start fresh right here. So if anything in this moment feels true for you, take a second. Hit that like button, share it with someone who could use a little quiet in their day, and subscribe so we can keep walking this path together. Because every breath you take in awareness is one step closer to peace. Not a new you, not a better you, just you, unburdened and awake to this beautiful, messy, ordinary life. Maybe tonight, when you close your eyes, you can whisper to yourself, it's okay to rest. Because maybe peace was never something to chase. Maybe it's been waiting patiently, under the noise, all along. Hey, before we begin, just take a small pause with me. Maybe put your hand on your heart. Feel it beating, steady, patient. It's been there this whole time, hasn't it? You don't have to make it beat. It just does. That's what today's part is about. The kind of peace that happens when you stop forcing, stop fixing, stop holding on. There's a point in every journey, spiritual or otherwise, where you realize you've been trying too hard. You've read, you've meditated, you've listened to teachers, you've looked for signs. And then one day, something inside whispers, maybe I don't need to hold this anymore. It's not giving up. It's something gentler than that. It's finally trusting life enough to open your hands. Think about it. You can't make a flower bloom by pulling on its petals. You can only water it, give it sunlight, and wait. The same goes for awakening. You can't rush it with effort. You can only see when you're clinging, see when you're afraid, see when you're trying control. And in that seeing, the letting go happens on its own. I once met a man named David at a small retreat in Oregon. He told me he'd spent 20 years trying to get enlightened. He'd sit for hours in meditation, analyze every breath, every thought. Then one afternoon, while walking by a lake, he suddenly laughed out loud. He said, I realized I'd been chasing what was already inside me. He didn't become some glowing saint that day. He just stopped running. He started walking slower, smiling more. Life became ordinary again, but in the most extraordinary way. That's the funny thing about awakening. It doesn't make you superhuman. It makes you real. You still get sad, you still get angry, but it doesn't cling the way it used to. You let it pass, like wind moving through trees. No resistance, no fight. The emotions do what they do, and then they're gone. The Buddha once compared this to holding a burning coal. You only keep suffering because you don't see what you're holding. The moment you truly see it's burning you, the hand opens. You don't need someone to tell you to drop it. It happens naturally. That's the power of clear seeing. And that's what we forget most of the time, that life in its own way is self-correcting. Pain teaches us where we're gripping too tightly. Disappointment shows us what we were demanding from the world. Every struggle becomes a mirror reflecting how much we resist what is. When you stop fighting reality, you stop hurting quite so much. Here's the truth. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It just means you finally understand that love doesn't need control. You can love someone and still let them walk their path. You can love yourself and still let go of the stories that don't serve you anymore. That's not cold. That's real compassion. So maybe right now, as you sit here, ask yourself gently, what am I still holding on to? Maybe it's an old regret, a dream that didn't happen, a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. You don't have to push it away. Just see it, feel it, and when it's ready, it'll leave on its own. This is what the Buddha called freedom not achieved, but released into. It's not a prize you win. It's what's left when you stop building walls around yourself. The paradox isn't solved. It's dissolved. And what remains is just life. Simple, ordinary, luminous life. If this message resonates with you, if it gives you a small breath of relief, hit that like button. Share it with someone who's been holding on too long. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe, because this channel isn't about finding perfect answers. It's about remembering that it's okay to let go. So tonight, when you lie down, maybe say softly to yourself, I don't have to carry this anymore. Then take a deep breath. Let it out slowly, because maybe freedom isn't something you get. Maybe it's what's been waiting underneath your grip all along. Hey, friend, let's end this journey the same way we started, softly. No grand conclusions, no heavy theories. Just us, breathing together for a few quiet minutes. You walk through so many layers in these talks. The self, the observer, the letting go. But here's something the old monks used to say with a smile. After all that searching, you still have to wash your bowl. Meaning, even after awakening, life goes on. You still cook breakfast, take walks, pay bills, love, lose, laugh. The difference is, now there's no weight behind it. You live the same life, but lighter. Before practice, mountains are mountains. During practice, mountains aren't mountains. After awakening, mountains are mountains again. Maybe you felt that already. At first, everything feels ordinary. Then, when you start questioning it all, the world flips upside down. Nothing feels stable. But when you finally stop trying to understand and just let things be, the world becomes ordinary again. Only this time, it shines. A cup of tea tastes deeper. A breeze through the window feels like a quiet gift. You laugh more easily. You forgive faster. It's not that life got easier. You just stopped needing it to be perfect. You know, when people ask, what's enlightenment like? I think of my grandmother. She'd sit on her porch every evening, humming old songs, watching the sun go down. No rush, no goal, just there. Sometimes I think that's enlightenment, being fully present for your own life without trying to fix it. And maybe that's the miracle we keep missing. The ordinary moment, the sound of dishes clinking in the sink, the dog sighing in its sleep, the way light hits the floor in the morning. When you stop asking life to be extraordinary, you realize it always was. Here's what I want you to remember. Nothing you've learned here needs to be perfect. You don't have to meditate for hours or know every teaching. Just pause sometimes. Notice. Feel your breath move in and out. Remember that everything you see, even the difficult parts, is life showing itself to you. You don't need to control it. You only need to be awake for it. And maybe when you truly see that, kindness blooms by itself. Not because you decide to be good, but because there's no longer a wall between you and the world. Someone else's joy feels like yours. Someone else's pain too. You start to care in a way that doesn't hurt anymore. It's love without ownership, just warmth moving through the air. So here we are at the end, but maybe it's not really an ending. Maybe it's the start of living a little softer, seeing a little clearer, breathing a little deeper. Maybe that's all awakening ever was. Coming home to what's always been here. If this journey touched something in you, even just a spark, Take a moment to hit like, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe so we can keep walking these quiet paths together. Because no matter where you are in your story, you're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. Tonight, when you close your eyes, maybe whisper to yourself, I'm home, because maybe you always were. Hey, we've reached the last chapter of this journey together. But don't think of it as the end. Think of it as a quiet morning, the kind where the world is just waking up and you realize, so are you? You've seen by now that peace isn't something distant. It's not a prize waiting at the top of some spiritual mountain. It's the gentle rhythm beneath everything. In your steps, your breath, your heartbeat. When you stop chasing it, it steps closer on its own. But now comes the real part, bringing all this back into your everyday life. Awakening isn't about escaping the world. It's about walking into it, with eyes open and heart steady. It's about answering emails, cooking dinner, talking with people, but from a quieter place inside. It's about living simply, fully, without pretending to be perfect. Maybe tomorrow someone cuts you off in traffic. Maybe your plans fall apart. Maybe an old hurt surfaces again. That's okay. None of this makes you less awake. It just means you're human. Remember what we talked about. See it, don't grab it. Let the wave rise and fall. When you stop fighting every moment, you discover you're already floating. There's this story I love. A monk, after years of meditation, returned to his village. People expected him to speak in riddles of wisdom. Instead, he said, I eat when I'm hungry, I sleep when I'm tired. That was it. And in those simple words, everything was there. Presence, peace, clarity. You don't need to retreat from life. You just live it awake. You'll still have bills, deadlines, family dinners, misunderstandings, but you'll handle them differently. There's space now. Space between the noise and your reaction. Space between anger and your response. That's what awareness gives you. Room to breathe. Room to choose kindness before habit. And slowly, life starts to feel less like something happening to you and more like something happening through you. Every breath, every sound, every person, part of one moving current. You stop asking, who am I? And start feeling, I am everything happening right now. And in that realization, fear softens. When you meet people now, friends, strangers, even those who hurt you, you start to see them differently. Their pain looks familiar. Their stories sound like echoes of your own. Compassion doesn't need effort anymore. It's just there, like sunlight spilling over everything equally. So, as you walk back into your life after this video, do it gently. Notice how your feet touch the ground. Notice how the air meets your skin. The observer we've been talking about. It was never someone separate. It's the life noticing itself through you. And hey, if these words found a quiet place inside you, let me know. Drop a comment below. Tell me what part stayed with you. Maybe share it with someone who's been searching for a bit of peace. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe so we can keep sharing this journey. Not to escape life, but to live it with open eyes. Because maybe that's what awakening really is. Not leaving the world behind, but finally coming back to it, calm, curious, and kind. Tonight, when you look at the stars or the quiet ceiling above your bed, remember this. The light you see out there, it's the same light shining in here. Welcome home. There's a quiet moment after every ending, a breath that hangs between what was and what will be. That's where we are now. You've walked through ideas about death, consciousness, karma, letting go. And maybe, somewhere along the way, something inside you began to settle. Maybe you stopped asking, where do we go? And started wondering, how do I live while I'm here? Because that's the real mystery, isn't it? We spend our lives trying to escape endings, but the truth is, Every day is both an ending and a beginning. The sun sets, that's an ending. It rises, that's a beginning. You lose something precious, that's an ending. You learn to live with it, that's a beginning. Maybe consciousness isn't a traveler moving from world to world. Maybe it's a witness, watching, learning, loving through every change. Maybe heaven isn't after death. Maybe it's the peace that comes when you stop needing life to be different from what it is. I remember an old man I once met at the beach. He was sitting by the water, staring at the horizon. I asked him, "What are you looking at?" He said, "The place where everything meets." And I realized that's what this whole conversation has been about. That invisible meeting point with a sea of living and the sky of the unknown touch. That's consciousness. That's you. You've been there all along, not inside your thoughts, not trapped in your memories, but in that space behind them, that space that hears the thoughts and holds the silence. That's the part that never dies. So, what do we do with this knowing? We live more gently. We speak more softly. We listen longer. We stop rushing to fill the silence and start letting it speak. We treat each day not like a routine, but like a gift that consciousness is experiencing through us. Because one day, and that day will come for all of us, someone will hold our hand and we'll take that final breath. And if we've lived with awareness, that breath won't be filled with fear. It will be filled with gratitude. Not, "I wish I had more," but what a miracle it's been to be here at all. That's the freedom the Buddha talked about. Not escaping the world, but waking up in the middle of it, realizing that joy and sorrow, gain and loss, birth and death, they're all waves on the same ocean. And when you finally stop fighting the waves, you realize you were never drowning. You are the ocean. So, as this story closes, I want to leave you with something simple, a few quiet truths I've learned from all of this. First, peace isn't found, it's remembered. It's always been with you. Second, love doesn't end. It just changes form. And third, awakening isn't a destination. It's a way of walking through the world, awake to the small miracles hiding in plain sight. Look around you right now. The way light falls across your table, the sound of wind outside, the rhythm of your breath. That's consciousness experiencing itself. Through you, you are the miracle you've been searching for. So don't be afraid of death. Be afraid of never really living. Don't wait for another lifetime to forgive, to love, to rest, to be kind. This life, this single, brief, beautiful moment is enough. And maybe that's where our story ends. Not with answers, but with understanding. Not with the end, but with a quiet beginning inside your heart. If this journey touched you, if it gave you even one moment of peace, share it. You never know who might need to hear it tonight. Leave a comment. Tell me what stayed with you. And subscribe, not for the numbers, but to keep this circle of calm growing, one story at a time. Because what we're doing here isn't just talking about death. We're learning how to live with open eyes, open hearts, and open hands. So, before you go, sit with me one more moment. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, feel everything. The weight, the warmth, the wonder, and let it all go. This is it. This breath, this life, this awareness. You've already arrived. Where does consciousness go after death? Maybe nowhere. Maybe everywhere. Maybe it just stays. Right here in the stillness that's been waiting for you all along. And if you listen closely, it's still whispering. You are light. You are love. You are home.